Hello viewers, welcome to KSK Historical Accounts. As we always do, we bring you lessons from history. For some time now, we have been learning how to determine the century of any year. So in historical accounts, we deal with years, and every year has a century that it falls in. In section 1 and 2, we dealt with the range. So we dealt with the range of years. So how to determine the range for any century at all. In section 1, we dealt with the beginning year of the range. In section 2, we dealt with the ending year of the range. Today we are going to finish up with the lessons on how to determine the century of any year. And before that, let's do a quick recap of what we've done so far in section 1 or the part 1 and the part 2. In part 1 or section 1, we dealt with how to determine the range of years. So we came out with the basic information that everybody should know, that a century has to do with 100 years, a period of 100 years. So the first century is from year 1 to year 100, or you can say from day 1 to year 100, which is year 0 to year 100, the first century. So with that information as our basic information or the basis of our knowledge, we will be able to determine the range of years for any other subsequent century. So we have 0 year to 100, or you can say first year to 100, which will be the first century. So that is that. And then we learned that to be able to know about centuries, every century has a beginning year and an ending year. And in section 1, we dealt with the beginning year. So we said that apart from the first century, any other century that you want to determine the range or the first year in that century, you have to look at the ending year of the previous century and just add 1 to it, and you get your beginning year. So we gave an example like the first century ending at 100, because they're from year 1 to the 100th year. So if you add 1 year to the ending year of the first century, you get 101, and that becomes the beginning year of the second century. So that was the rule we learned, that if you want to know, apart from the first century, if you want to know the beginning year of any other century, what you need to do is to determine the ending year of the immediate past century and add 1 to it, and that will take you to the beginning year of that century in question. Then from there we came to section 2 or part 2, and we had to do with the ending year, and that we also determined that the ending year of any century is easy to determine. Why is it easy to determine? If you mention any century, there's a particular number that comes out. Let's say you say 9th century. 9th century. Once you say 9th century, it means that the sentence or the phrase you are putting forward is producing a number that is 9. So what you do is that you put the number down, 9, and write 2 zeros behind it, and that is 900. That is to say, the ending year of the 9th century is year 900. Again, let's take the 5th century. If you take the 5th century, the number that the 5th century is producing is number 5. You just write 2 zeros behind the number 5, and you get 500. And 500 is the ending year of the 5th century. That was what we learned from the second session. Today, we are quickly going to look at determine the years, each and every year, with some simple rules, some simple statements, and it will be easier for us to do that. And that is what we will be doing in our session today. The first one for today is that we are looking at the range of years. And the first rule today is that the number that comes out from every century, like we did in session 2, that when you say 9th century, the number that comes out is number 9. The first rule for today is that that number, every number that a century produces, appears only once in that range of years for the century. So let's say if you talk about 4th century, if you talk about 4th century, there is only 1 year in the 4th century that you will see the number 4 in it. That means that you have only one number with 4 in it and have 99 years with 3 in it. So the 4th century had years, 100 years, but it is only the ending year, which is 400, that has the number 4 in it. If you have this rule covered, you are free to go. So anytime you are to know the ending year of any century, that is the only year that has the number that the century is producing in it. Another example, if you take, let's say, the 10th century. The 10th century had 100 years in it. It will start from somewhere the beginning year and end somewhere the ending year. But it is only the ending year, only 1 year, that is the ending year, that have the number 10. So you know the 10th century ends at year 1000 or 1000. Apart from that, all the other 99 years have 900 and something in it. So you know that the beginning year of the 10th century is year 901. So 901, 902, 903, going up to 999. All of them have 9s in it. But only the last year, that is the year 1000, that have 10, the number 10 in it. So that is the rule, the first rule. So let's try and put that on the board. That only the ending year of a century has the number the century puts out in it. Example, 4th century ends at year 400. So only the ending year of a century has the number that the century puts out in it. So when you say 4th century, the number the century puts out is year 4 or number 4. And once it's number 4, all the other years in the 4th century don't have 4 in it. It is only the ending year, which is 400, that has the number 4 in it. That is to say that apart from the ending year of a century, all the other years including the beginning year, all the other years including the beginning year have the number of the immediate past century in it. So let's take an example like that. So let me repeat that. Apart from the ending year of any century, all the other years, including the beginning year, have the number of the immediate past century in it. Example, so we use 4th century here. So let's use 4th century here. So when you take the 4th century, the ending year is 400. So it is the only year that have number 4 in it. All the other years, including the beginning year, had the number that the immediate past century produces. And the immediate past century to the 4th century is the 3rd century. And the number the 3rd century produces is number 3. So apart from the last year in the 4th century, which is year 400, all the other years, including the beginning year, has number 3 in it. So the beginning year of the 4th century, as we learned from lesson 1 or part 1, is 301, because the 3rd century will end at 300. So you add 1 to it and it takes you to 301. That becomes the beginning year. From 301 to the number of years or range of years to 399, all these years are years in the 4th century. And so they are the years that constitute 99 years. Then you add the last one that have number 4, that is 400. And that becomes the 100 years in the 4th century. And that is to say that apart from the last year of any century at all, the other years, the 99 years, have the number of the immediate past century in it. Let me take another example, then go. Let's say, okay, so we are giving another example in support of the claim we're making. And that is to say, let's say 2nd century. If you take the 2nd century, apart from the ending year of the 2nd century, and what is the ending year of the 2nd century? You take the number the century produces, that is 2, write 2 zeros behind it, and that gives you 200 from lesson 2. So 200. And I know you have said that because you went through lesson 2. And so you know how to determine the ending year of each century. So 200. So apart from year 200, any other year in the 2nd century doesn't have the number 2 in it. I am repeating. If you take the 2nd century, apart from the ending year, which is year 200, and you know how to determine the ending year from our previous videos or lessons. So apart from the ending year, which is year 200, any other year don't have the number 2 in it. So the beginning year of the 2nd century, as you all know, the previous year, the ending year of the previous century is 100. You add 1 to it, you get 101. And that becomes the beginning year of the 2nd century. And now, once you have the beginning year of the 2nd century being 101, from 101 up to 199, all the years there have the number of the previous century in it. That is 1. All the other years, so you see 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, except the last one, that is 200. So you have only 1 year having the number that the century produces in it, and then 99 of the other years having the number of the previous century in it. So our example, you have 99 years from 101 to 199 having 1 in it, except the last one, that is 200. So it is quicker to do that. We are closing up with the last thing, that whenever a number is given to you and it is not the ending year that have 2 zeros or that end with 0, something 100, then you should be able to determine which century it is in quickly. So apart from the ending year that have the number the century is producing, any other year is quickly determined for a century by looking at the previous century. So apart from, let's say, 400, apart from year 400 that have 4 in it, if you look at any number or any year that have number 3, apart from year 300, which is the last year of the 3rd century, any other number that has 3 in it, like 301, 399, 360, 350, 333, 341, any other year that has 3 in it apart from 300 is in the 4th century. So you just simply would quickly have to, if it is not 300, let me then add 1 to 3 and get 4 and see it is in the 4th century. It is quickly to do that. If it is not 500, any other thing, 400 and something, if it is only not 400 but 400 and something, the number 4, let me add 1 to it and I'll get 5, and that is the 5th century. So from 401 up to 499, they are all in the 5th century, 99 years. You just add the last one, which is 500, the ending year of the 5th century, and you have your complete 100 years. This is our lesson for how to determine the year or the century of years. The range is given in section 1. We look at the beginning year. In section 2, we look at the ending year. In our last session, which is session 3, we have looked at how to determine quickly, just by mentioning. So apart from the last year, the ending year that have the number that the year produces, any other year in a century will not have the number that century is producing. So if you have the 10th century, you only have the number 10 in the ending year, which is year 1000. Any other year in the 10th century only have 900 and something. So 901, 902 up to 999. Then you add year 1000 to it, then you get the ending year. Let's look at another one, last one, maybe 5th century or 6th century, or let's say the 7th century. Apart from the last year of the 7th century, which is year 700, that have number 7, any other years, all the remaining 99 years, don't have number 7 in it. Starting from 601 to 699, 99 years, they don't have number 7, but rather number 6, 600 and something, up to 699. Then you add year 700, you get your complete 100 years and complete 7th century. On this note, we end our session on how to determine the century of any year. This is KSK Historical Resource, and you come to our lessons and you have more historical things to learn. Go and learn, go through the videos, and perhaps in our next section, before we start anything, we will put some work and see if students can try. Go through them, and I'm repeating, KSK Historical Accounts, and see you next time. Another example in support of